Have you ever felt that you're not quite in the right role or in the right job or necessarily in the right place? You might feel a little bit restless or somehow things just don't fit properly. If so, it might be that you need to reflect upon your calling or vocation evening. And this is something that the scriptures have a lot to say about. There's lots of people in there who, in one way or another, have God crossing their path and who, as a result, decide then to think and do and be differently. I remember one lecture I attended where the lecturer was talking about David in respect of this. David was the 8th son, and given that 7 is the magical number, if you like, of number of sons, David was something of a runt of the litter, and yet it was him that was chosen for very special purposes. So if you're thinking, oh, it couldn't possibly be me in this specific kind of role, well, maybe it could. Again, David was picked out by Samuel, so there was somebody else who was saying to him, look, have you thought about this? Have you imagined yourself into this kind of role? And maybe it is that we're called to be Samuel to somebody else, to actually suggest to them that they might want to think about using what we see as their giftings in quite specific ways, either inside or outside of the church. And the third really interesting thing about David, certainly in relation to that story of him overcoming Goliath, is that when he's asked to put armour on, he doesn't put armour on. He says he can't work as well with the armour on as without it. And maybe there's something in there for vocation as well, that maybe we don't fit or conform to somebody else's armour or somebody else's role, but actually we have to fill out a role with our own particular and unique character and personality. So as you look around and consider maybe at a vocations fair what the possibilities are, keep those points in mind, that actually maybe you are being called to something that's a bit of a stretch that you haven't actually imagined you could do. Maybe there is somebody saying, have you thought about this? And instead of dismissing that, to actually think more carefully, because that could be a Samuel. And not to think, I must do this or do that because these are the specific roles, but actually think a bit more widely about what the possibilities are. In all of this, one of the saints that I love with his advice about vocation is Francis de Sales. He says, if you're entertaining ministry or a different way of being and doing, then ask yourself the question, is this going to make me more loving? Because if it is, then it's participating in the way of love and the God who is love, and therefore we are walking towards God. If it is a role that is actually not enabling us to become more loving, then what are we playing at? Good advice and concrete advice. Every blessing as you think and reflect on how God is calling you on right now.